In this series, we speak to inspirational people who are working in global health. They share their journeys about where in the world they have worked, the issues they are passionate about, and how they got involved. Whether they are students, young professionals, or established in their careers, they all have one thing in common: to change this world for the better. In this episode, we speak to Niamh Flynn and Niamh Hennessy about their newly launched and really interesting podcast series, SDG Meditate. These two creative and passionate young women had the idea to put the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, together with meditation in an effort to improve well-being as well as encourage personal and collective reflection and activism. It is an amazing example of the SDGs in action.
Take a pause. Is what I'm doing beneficial? And if it's not, is there a better way to do it? I definitely think we're all working so hard and we're so motivated and passionate. I think the most important thing for me is making sure that the passion is pointed in the right direction.
So just a little bit about our two guests today. Niamh Flynn consults on community development and development education programs both in Ireland and overseas, with an emphasis on inclusion, diversity and accessibility using a participatory approach. Niamh graduated from the National College of Art and Design in Dublin with a BA in Design, and she is one of this year's SDG Advocates with Development Perspectives in Ireland. Niamh Hennessy graduated from Trinity College Dublin with an undergraduate degree in biomedical engineering and a research master's in mechanical and manufacturing engineering. Niamh has always been fascinated by how the body works, with a background in ballet, which she complemented by later becoming a yoga teacher. Movement, mindfulness, and how all of this relates to well-being has been a huge aspect of Niamh's life. So I am absolutely delighted to be joined by two Niamhs this morning, Niamh Flynn and Niamh Hennessy, both incredibly young, creative, dynamic women who have put together a really interesting podcast series on the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, bringing in meditation. So guys, over to you. What are, maybe to start with, what are the SDGs? Let's not assume that everybody understands what the SDGs are. So, what are the SDGs and why did you decide to use them as a creative hook for this meditation series? So Niamh Flynn, how about you?
So the Sustainable Development Goals, as you call them there, are a collection of 17 goals that were decided on collectively from people all over the world, headed by the UN. So the UN brought together all of the people from all of the different communities, and they're building on what came before, which were the Millennium Development Goals. And the Sustainable Development Goals range from, in their 17 goals, from things like Goal 3, good health and well-being, to Goal 17, partnerships for the goals. There's also facing challenges like reducing inequality, gender equality, no poverty is the first goal, zero hunger is the second goal. So you can check out all of the 17 goals yourself, but they're a collective effort to challenge some of the issues that are in our world today.
And Niamh, why, how did you think of meditation? How did you decide to use the SDGs as this, as a creative entry point for meditation? How did that come about?
So I'll speak briefly on this and then I'll pass it over to Niamh Hennessy. But for me, during the pandemic in 2020, I joined an online meditation group with Niamh Hennessy as the meditation teacher. And it really was something that struck me as helping me to sustain my activism and my work in development work across the globe. And I'm going to let Niamh speak more to the benefits of meditation for us.
Yeah, so I guess the thing with the pairing of the SDGs and meditation is, like you said, it's a bit unusual. It's not your typical topic to meditate on. But when you think about what meditation is, it's kind of rolling back your thoughts and coming back to kind of your base. So I think it's really important for things like these world-changing goals, the SDGs, to take the time, even if it's 10 minutes, to truly consider what you're really thinking about them, rather than just rolling with, there's so much going on in the world, this really needs to change. Whereas if we can pare back our thinking and go from a more mindful place, we'll take more meaningful action from that. So in a way, they're a perfect mix, just not one that you typically think of.
No, I mean, I even speaking to you here, it's making me think, our minds absolutely love frameworks. And that's why I think the SDGs have worked so well. There's like 17 goals, and the way they're presented, they're beautifully colored. Each one has a square, beautifully colored with an icon. And then under each goal, there are targets to help achieve each goal. So our mind works so beautifully. It's like framework. Great. Now what can I do? We move from framework to action. But I know in my own life, meditation is very important. It's a very important part of my own personal practice. And I love that what you're doing is really helping us be more reflective. So rather than jump straight to action, it's really helping us reflect on, how do I consider these goals, and what do I have to contribute, and what experience do I have that I could bring to bear on these? Niamh, I wonder if you could say a little bit more, Niamh Flynn, a little bit more about this.
So I would like to pick up on what you're saying there in how we've decided to structure the meditation series. So the meditation series can be found on Spotify and also on an online website link. And the way that we've structured it is that there's an opening meditation and a closing meditation. And for each goal, there's an individual meditation and a collective meditation. So the thinking behind this is that we need to ease out of our busy lives into meditation practice. And also that at the end, we can close off from that space and bring with us what we need from that space. And the idea of it having it at two separate ones, the individual and the collective, is to give you a chance to bring awareness to yourself in an introspective way, and then to be reminded of the collective unity that we have in achieving these goals, and that you're not alone, that there's solidarity in achieving these goals.
I'm going to jump in there as well and just say, like you said, the mind works, like we love a framework, but we also need to give ourselves time to create the framework. And that's what we're hoping to do with breaking it down into the individual and collective, is that if you take your time to view how you're actually thinking, and then you can take it a step further and beyond into how you think that you can fit within the collective and how other people can work together. So it's building from the ground up.
And when you say building, Niamh Hennessy, I know you have a degree in biomedical engineering, and then you have a master's in mechanical and manufacturing engineering. And I'm just wondering, how did you come across meditation? So you've got the logical part, and then meditation obviously brings in such a mindfulness. How did you put these two together, even in your own life?
So yeah, as I'm very technical, I love a problem and problem solving. And I went to yoga because a friend of mine wanted to go during Freshers Week of college, and I just kept going. Took about 4 or 5 years of normal yoga to branch out into doing a bit of meditation. And it's been so helpful for me, especially like working as an engineer. It's very fast paced, it's very high pressured, and you need to be able to think and pivot all the time. But once I found that introducing meditation into my days, I was able to think a lot more strategically because I didn't have that busyness of my mind, and I was able to really streamline my thinking, and they complement each other so well. We just don't think about how they fit because we're kind of broken up in society a bit.
It's like, slow down in order to create and be clear, which of course means a lot more productivity. And it's not really intuitive for many people. And yet when you start this as a practice, it just makes huge sense. I wonder, could you say a little bit about, SDGs, how do the SDGs support the everyday person? And how does your series help people to get involved or to make a difference using the SDGs? Niamh Flynn, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, so the idea, one of the motivators for creating this SDG podcast series for me was being part of a program called SDG Advocate that is run by a group called Development Perspectives. And the idea of being an SDG advocate to me means bringing the goals to as many spaces as possible and showing people how the goals can impact on their lives and on the lives of the people around them in their different communities. And I suppose I felt that the goals were a bit out of reach for people, and that maybe people felt a bit overwhelmed about the idea of solving these massive global goals, that them as one person or one small community couldn't have an impact on this wider global space. And so these podcast series is free, and me and Niamh Hennessy are volunteers, and so we're bringing it to you in a way that's accessible. The language is accessible, the pace is accessible. We hope that you'll be able to listen. We potentially will make the transcripts available for people that they can read if they would like to, and the idea being that you as an individual and you in your local community can feel empowered to make small actions on a local scale, that over time, as we impact locally, that we can have more impact globally. And so it's hopefully will empower you little by little to find what your area is, what your niche is, because the goals aren't supposed to be achieved by one person only. They're a collective mission. So the idea that maybe one goal resonates with you more than another, then that's an opportunity while listening to the meditations to see which ones do spark that passion in you.
Oh, I love that. A kind of a real exposure to the goals, but in quite a mindful exposure. And of course, as the Irish Global Health Network, we're interested in all of the goals, as all of the goals affect health and well-being. But we're particularly interested in goal 3, which is on good health and well-being. I wonder, I love to talk about these things, but I particularly love to experience. So I wonder, Niamh Hennessy, if you'd be willing just to give us a little taster, if there's anything you could offer us, a little snippet or taster around goal 3, good health and well-being, so we can, just experience a little bit of the meditation, even real time during this podcast.
Of course, I'd love to share and give a taste, and then can delve deeper and take the full introspection. So if you want to begin by just finding a comfortable seat, closing down your eyes. And we'll take a couple deep breaths in, checking with the body, checking with your mind. For SDG 3, good health and well-being, it's all about the body. It's all about your mind and how they interact together. So don't brush this aside. Truly check in with how you feel in this moment. We all carry our worries, our aches and pains. Moving through life is moving through health and varying degrees of good health. And when we work on creating good foundations for strong health, we can support ourselves and support others. So we'll take 3 deep, deep breaths in together, breathing in through the nose and letting your exhale be longer than the inhale. Instantly tapping into the parasympathetic system, your rest and repair. Taking another breath And again, letting your exhale be longer than the inhale. And one more, breathing long and deep and letting everything go. And when you're ready, opening up the eyes. Hope that was a nice little taste.
That was a very nice little taste, Niamh. Thank you so much. How beautiful just to stop and to go inside. And I love the intention that, you know, you bring the goal into your awareness, into your intention, and connect it to yourself. And I'm really, really looking forward to experiencing, to listening to those podcasts in the whole series in more detail. I love the name SDG Meditate. So clear, so simple. How did you guys come up with this concept? Niamh Hennessy, I know you're in Australia. Niamh Flynn, you're in Ireland. Obviously, you've been, you know, you've been separated across the miles, and yet you've managed to produce something this creative. How did you come up with the concept? Yeah, Niamh Flynn.
Yeah, I think it was more like, how could we not do this? I was from experiencing meditations with Niamh in her style of meditation to bring all of these real world aspects into a meditation space and offer space to reflect and introspect, and also find a space to re-energize in how we think about ourselves and the world and all of the in-between connections that happen in our day-to-day lives, on a local scale and a global scale. I remembered that as part of our action projects, we were asked to think about who our friends and our foes were, people who are our allies in our missions and in our projects in our lives. And I think that immediately Niamh Hennessy came to mind for me as an ally and someone that can help me to sustain my work in activism and advocacy work and development work, because it's really work of output of energy. And although there is a symbiotic relationship between you and all the people you work with, you're often bringing a lot of energy to the table and bringing a lot of hope and a lot of motivation to the group. So when you need to recoup and re-energize and reignite that passion for that long sustaining challenge of activism over a long period of time, as we see with all the advocates and activists outside COP26 at the moment, that you need to take that time to take space to re-energize. And I think that when I was on a meditation with Niamh, I actually said to her, you know, you're one of my friends and you're one of my allies, and why don't we just go for it and create this space in between meditations and sustainable development goals? Because the people who do know about the sustainable development goals need the meditation, and the people who do know about meditation have the energy to tackle these massive goals. So let's just pair them together and make this combination happen.
Wow, well, you two are such a great example of a pair that have made this happen. I'm just wondering how you see, you know, it's been very successful so far, SDG Meditate. It's been really successful. It's a great uptake for the podcast series. And I'm just wondering, say for organizations like ourselves, we have a team meeting every week, like many organizations, and we're very conscious in our teams. So we share things like meditation, working with the mind. We will start our meetings with meditations, and we're absolutely going to be incorporating these podcasts into our team meetings. What other suggestions do you have for organizations or individuals who, like us, are engaged and working, contributing to the SDGs? How could we use the podcasts?
So first I'll speak a bit to it, and then Niamh, if you'd like to add anything on to the end of that. Just from my perspective, I've worked with a lot of youth groups, and I work in a lot of spaces where people are actively working towards solving problems and working together and continuing to tackle these issues that are underlying the sustainable development goals. And I think that I envision that the SDG Meditate series could be a tool for practitioners to bring to spaces for people to experience and be both introspective reflection spaces, and also can be used as a tool to start conversations around how actions might take place based off of what they experience and what they listen to and find for themselves from listening to this podcast series.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it as well. There's so much opportunity to springboard off of these meditations, because every single individual who listens to, let's say, SDG 3 on good health, everyone is going to have different thoughts, different reactions based on like their different life experiences. So if you get a group together and use these meditations as your starting point, there's so much potential to grow creatively and really get, I guess, brainstorming going for change grounded in a introspective but well thought out frame of mind, from a peaceful mind rather than a monkey mind.
Yeah, I would say that considered action is something that we're aiming for, and a shift in societal mindset. So if we can make those impacts, then we'd be doing very well.
Wow, I'm absolutely sure you can. Just wondering, have you recorded, or are you offering these live? You're talking about working with groups. Do you do the podcast live? Is there a possibility that you could have a group that come together and do this with you live, and then have that kind of discussion? Is that something you've already thought about?
It's not something that we've done yet. I hold weekly meditations on Fridays, just with a group that I've had since the beginning of the pandemic. And we do a different topic every week. So sometimes they're closely aligned with the SDGs, but we haven't done these ones specifically. Each of SDG Meditate has only been done for the podcast series, but it's definitely something that could be done in a live setting. And I think there's a difference between a live and a recorded session. When you're all together and listening in real time, the things that you think and the way that you perceive is different.
Yeah, totally. It's just the connection, isn't it? It's like there's something about being connected, just like we are right now. I wonder, Niamh Flynn, the SDG, you're an SDG Advocate as part of the Development Perspectives Program here in Ireland. What did you gain from that experience? I think it's a year-long program. It's being involved over a year, and it's a lot of our incredible young people like yourselves involved in that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, so the SDG Advocate Program came about through Development Perspectives, which are an organization that are mainly based in development education. And development education is the sphere of learning about and considering development, both at a local and a global level, and many other meanings beyond that. But that's the one meaning for development education. And I suppose they were looking for a group of people, and they do this annually, so people can apply the next year, to support on a journey in making actionable change around the Sustainable Development Goals. And we all thought about and considered maybe which goals we were most passionate about, or that aligned most with our values at this time. And from there, we were supported in building an action project. And so the action projects have a large range. They are wide ranging from focusing on sustainability and more on climate action to good health and well-being. And then also reduce inequalities was a big theme this year within our group. And the Development Perspectives website will be hosting a short video about some of the action projects, and also there will be a document that'll have everybody's action project, and you can read more about each action project. And I think that it's well worth thinking about maybe how you could be a person who could make a small change in your own life, and then bring that change into your wider community and be a multiplier of the goals. So main aim of an SDG advocate is not only to consider the actions that they would take and the people that they would include in their actions, but how they can encourage and empower other people to take actions. So one of the thinkings I had around doing SDG Meditate was that not only I would spend time considering the goals, but that Niamh Hennessy would also spend time considering the goals, and that we would do it collaboratively and come up with collaborative ideas that we wouldn't have come up with either or by ourselves.
Yeah, and just speaking about young activists and young professionals, for instance, in global health, who might be listening here, what advice from your experience, both of you, what advice do you have for young activists who are listening, who might want to get involved or do more, be empowered in the SDGs? How about Niamh Hennessy?
Yeah, I think in keeping with the meditate is probably to slow down. A big thing that I find myself is I can get very caught up in what needs to happen and everything that's wrong. Whereas we all move better when we move through a place that's coming from a more calm exterior. So the one thing I always bring myself back to is take a pause. Is what I'm doing beneficial? And if it's not, is there a better way to do it? So yeah, I definitely think like we're all working so hard and we're so motivated and passionate. I think the most important thing for me is making sure that the passion is pointed in the right direction.
I love that, Niamh. And I think with activism, I've been involved in activism for many years, and there's a fine line between passion and anger. And how anger then, and what I've seen is how anger, it doesn't affect change in the same way that kind of clarity and passion can. And yet it's very hard sometimes to extract passion and anger when there is such injustice in the world that we're trying to do something about. Niamh, how about Niamh Flynn? Just a last word from you. Anything for young activists from your experience?
Yeah, so as I said, I work a lot with young people. I'm the current co-chair of the Global Youth Network as part of Goals Global's initiative to have meaningful youth participation in their work. And I see that when young people are working, sometimes they can be overwhelmed with the frustration of the injustices that exist in the world. And I try to encourage people and to remind people that we need to have the serious conversations, and we need to think about in a serious way a critical way of how we can really work to find solutions and sustainable solutions to the global issues that exist. But it's also so important to have fun and to enjoy the people around you and to enjoy doing things in your space, with nature, with your friends, with your community, and to find those moments of joy and really focus in on them, because the issues that exist in the world will be forever changing, and there'll always be something and some injustice that will be occurring. Unfortunately, that's a reality because we are people and we're 7 billion of us and we all live on this planet together. But it doesn't mean that change won't happen, but it is important that in order to sustain your work and that you don't forget to play, and that you continue to be a part of a wholesome community and not lose your energy over time.
Oh, very, very well said. And Niamh, for all those listening, just like me, they're dying to go out now and press play on this series. Where can they find the podcast series?
Yes, so it's available on Spotify. Just type in SDG Meditate. And I think it's one of the first ones that comes up, actually. So you can start off with the way we've designed it. It's got an opening meditation that you can use to bring yourself into a more calm state. There's a closing meditation that you'll use at the very end to kind of close off and come back into the space. And then you can choose, I've got almost the first 5 up. There's an individual and a collective meditation for each sustainable development goal. So you can kind of mix and match. You can do individual and collective for the one goal, or you can do a series of individual ones, whatever you feel most motivated by, or whichever ones you have time to do as well, because they vary in length.
Wow, Niamh, last word from you.
And just to say that if you don't happen to have the application Spotify, we also have a website link that the meditations are on. So no problem if you don't have Spotify, you can still access the meditations, and they're still free online.
Wonderful. Guys, thank you so much, both of you, for being such a living example of the Sustainable Development Goals and showing us all what is possible, how to look after ourselves, and at the same time, how to contribute to change in the world. Absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. Thank you. So thank you for joining us today. If you want to know more or get involved in the Irish Global Health Network, then go to our website. You can sign up for free to become a member at www.globalhealth.ie. And we very much look forward to the next episode.